Welcome to the SEO.co Search Engine Optimization Podcast. Digital marketing essentials and next level tactics. From offsite and on-site optimization to persuasive selling and everything in between. You'll learn actionable tips on what it takes to outright and outrank your competition. Now, here's your host, Nate Need.
Welcome again to another episode of the SEO.co Search Engine Optimization Podcast. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about Google indexing. What is Google indexing? Why is it important? How to get your websites indexed? How to get them indexed quickly? When you have a problem with your websites, how do you make sure that that those can get fixed and get re-indexed? And how to check how many pages your website is, how many pages of your website are indexed in the Google search engine index. So let's dive right in. Index pages are pages that your site has that are out there that are not marked as no index by your robots.txt file that are indexable in Google search. So that might include anything from a post to a page. And it's open and out there for Google to crawl and discover those pages and posts. And that's typically done through your sitemap, which is submitted through Google Search Console. And depending on the popularity of your site, how many existing links you have to your site, and how frequently the Google bots are crawling your site, they may come back and find index pages relatively quickly. And whether those pages are indexed or not is up to Google to index them, and where they are indexed, meaning how high they are ranked, is dependent on all of the several hundred factors that are in the Google algorithm. The QDF component of Google search, in that when you post something new, especially for sites that are established, something new that has been posted has a greater likelihood of showing up higher, at least for a short period of time, when it's first published, because quality deserves freshness, and which is what QDF stands for. And so you'll see a lot of pages that are newly released blog posts or pages that on your site that they'll start showing up and get indexed very high for, say, the first few weeks. If Google likes what they see and the responses, the bounce rates are low from people visiting the page as a result of that new piece of the index, then you're more than likely to stay highly ranked for that particular page for the terms that page should be highly ranked for. The question is, and this is one of the questions that we'll link to in the show notes, is how do you quickly get a page indexed by Google? It's very simple. Log into your Google Search Console and have Google manually crawl that. Once Google does, you can, and it shows that, hey, this isn't in the index, you can say, hey, submit it to the index, and it'll have Google force crawl that page and hopefully index it in a very short order. Sometimes when I've done that, I've seen it happen and get indexed within a minute or less, and sometimes it might take 48 hours for Google to crawl it. And then even longer, depending on what they like or what they don't like about the page, really determines where it sits in rankings on the SERPs. So it really is dependent on how that page is likely to perform. When it comes to figuring out how many pages of your site are indexed in Google, doing a simple site search in Google is the easiest way to do that. So go over to google.com, type in site, SITE, and then the site. So in our case, it would be site:/SEO.co, and then Google will send a response back that shows how many pages of our site are indexed in the Google index. When you want to get details of a page indexed, you would want to use Google Search Console. And Google Search Console can manually crawl, again, those individual pages. One thing that you might be asking yourself is why Google is not indexing your site. And from our perspective and my personal perspective, most sites that have been out there and submitted to Google through the Google Search Console and submitting your sitemap They are indexed, they're just not ranking well. So some people might ask, why isn't my website in the index? Well, if you do a site search like we just discussed, they'll not only show you how many pages of your site are indexed, but it'll also let you know that yes, Google has you in the index. You actually are showing up. The question is Google ranking you? And that's the most common issue when people say, oh, my site's not indexed. Well, it is indexed, it's just not ranking well. But if it's not indexed, if it's not showing up, you may have several issues going on. You may have both the www and non-www domain showing up. So you've got some duplicate content and Google doesn't know how to react to that. So it just says, I'm not going to index this. Maybe your site is still being searched. So maybe you haven't submitted your sitemap. Maybe you've submitted it, but not given it ample week or two, especially for a new site for the search spiders to actually crawl it and index it. Perhaps you've got a lingering robot.txt file which is blocking Google from actually crawling the site. We've discussed in previous episodes how if you have certain things turned on and turned off, whether it's you're using WordPress or another CMS, that those can actually cause Google to not see the site when you want them to see the site. So if you're blocking Google from seeing it, then it's going to pull it out of the index because you're manually telling it that you don't want to be in Google's index. There are cases where people have a website that they don't want it to be indexed, but they want someone, if they do direct type in, to be able to see it. And that's an example of that. And you may be inadvertently doing that. We have seen actually a lot of Google crawl errors occur over the last year or so. And so it could be a Google issue, most likely not, but that could be a component of it. If you're seeing individual pages not showing up for those individual page searches, so if you search that page, it's not showing up, you may have some duplicate content issues that are causing that to occur. Your site may have loading problems, or you may have really poorly optimized landing pages. And you may not be optimized for languages. You may have some privacy issues, SSL certificate issues, and your htaccess file may be redirecting improperly and not redirecting for specific pages properly. So you might have just a dead 404 page that you didn't know about that you were trying to fix on a site migration. That could be an issue. If you've not no indexed your site or indicated to Google that your meta tags aren't no indexing a particular page, then perhaps you've been hit with a manual penalty. That's a potential. But you would have to log into Google Search Console and let you know that relatively quickly. In most cases, Google site penalties do occur, but in most cases, it's usually a visibility issue and not an actual indexing issue. If you want to correct problems relative to your Google site indexing issues, I will gladly link to those in the show notes. One thing to consider is just log into a Google Search Console, see which pages aren't being indexed. You can search those pages directly in the console. Identify the root cause of the problem and correct those problems by submitting an updated site map to Google. You may want to remove some no index pages, remove 404 errors, canonicalization tags that aren't accurate, and really just update what Google sees when it's going to see your site. When it comes to actually getting indexed, you want your content to be relevant, high quality, your header tags to indicate what the content is, your external links to be on point and relevant to the content, and your internal links to actually link to pages that are also relevant. And one thing that we can help with here at SEO.co is to work with you on getting your website indexed, not only indexed, but actually showing up and ranking. So give us a call. We'd love to hear your feedback on some of these podcasts that we're producing, and we'd love to have you back here soon. Thanks again for joining us, and we will.
Thank you for joining us on the SEO.co podcast. We appreciate your time. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show and visit SEO.co for more resources based on today's topic, as well as access to more podcast episodes to help you improve your site's long-term SEO success.